Thank you so much for watching this video. I mean, really thank you. This is the most important video that I've ever done. This is the video that explains what the 4 chains, our company, is all about. And it is the thing that I hope makes the most difference of any of the videos that we've made. Speaking of videos, when Frank Meeks was asking the whole Domino's leadership team, including me, to make 4 training manuals and training videos, it wouldn't surprise you that 3 of those 4 were customer service, marketing, building your team. But the 4th one may surprise you. It was life balance. And it surprised a lot of us until Frank Meeks explained to us why. He realized that no matter how much success you have at work or at an individual aspect of your life, if you don't have that balance, if you haven't put everything together, there's still something missing. And that's what the 4 chains are. The 4 links that you have to put together that lead a happy, fulfilled life. And we are going to make a lot of content about each individual link, but this video explains the overall theory about why we chose these 4. Something that is really important to me because it is simple. And literally every single person that is watching this video can do this. You all have the capability to take these steps and lead a happy, fulfilled life. And if that's the impact I have on your life, then that's going to make me really, really happy. You've heard the expression, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, it's all small stuff except for these 4 things. I do want to say right off the bat, just because I say that it's simple and everyone can do it, that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's not easy because you're going to have to put in effort, like watching this video. I understand that I'm in the TikTok generation, and this video is much longer than that group is used to consuming. But if you think about it, it's an investment in you being happy. And when you think about it in those terms, I really hope that you don't think it's too much of investment. You should love yourself, or at least like yourself enough to want to put this level of investment in having a happy life. Now, there are 2 things that you do need, but they're things that are available to anybody. Like anybody can have these things if they want it. And the number 1 thing is you have to be an adult. Now, that means a couple of different things. One of them means that you literally, in terms of the age thing, you are not a child that is living under an adult's nest, that you have left the house and you are responsible for supporting yourself. And that is important because although these videos, if you are in 5th, 6th grade, it's probably a little young, but even up to 11th and 12th, where technically you don't fall under that adult category, these videos can benefit you, but you cannot complete the process until you become an adult it is your responsibility for your own happiness. And of course, as a child, you could do a great job with these questions. You could do a great job making choices, particularly on education and development. But because of the fact that there are adult figures, parental figures in your life that play a role in your happiness, you may be in an unhappy situation that is absolutely not your responsibility at all. So I would say that another thing that you have to understand about being an adult, it doesn't just mean moving away from home. It also means that you are making adult choices, not juvenile choices. Becoming 18, turning 21, becoming a parent. I know it's hard to hear, but that doesn't necessarily make you an adult. Because I have employed countless people that check all of those boxes and are just absolutely not adults. You're an adult if you're making adult choices. And what adult choices mean is that when you are a child, when you are a juvenile, you have blinders on. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just part of the developmental stage. If you want something and you see something, your actions go towards acquiring that something. And when you become an adult, you're able to lift the blinders off and realize, hey, there's a part of me that wants that thing, that to eat, to drink, to be with that person, whatever it might be. But I know as an adult from my experience that this may not be a good decision for my long-term happiness. There's just something about me that wants that right now. And so the difference between adult decision-making and juvenile decision-making is you're able to make decisions that are in your best long-term interest while ignoring something that part of you's telling you want now. It's the reason why grocery stores have a bunch of different items in the checkout line where you are forced to stand waiting for the previous person to check out that have no nutritive value. Next time you go to a grocery store, look at those items. I mean, you look at them every time, but look at them in these terms. I'm sure none of those things are on your list. You don't have a Snickers bar on your grocery list, but the reason why there's two profitable scenarios for grocery stores, it's the reason why they have those things in the aisle. The first one is there's an adult there and it's with a child, and the child is behaving in a very, I don't know what the right word is, annoying, very uncomfortable, very irritating way. And they know that a certain percentage of the time, the adult will realize, hey, if I give this child what they're asking for, they're going to stop acting in this irritating way. And so they make that choice and buy it for them. Okay, you can have this candy bar, be quiet, or whatever it is. And that's harmful. It's not just harmful because it is it's bad for you. It's harmful because you're teaching the child a lesson that will hurt them in life, because the people that get to the point where they are employers, where they employ people, that's not going to work. You don't want to raise somebody that's taught that if they be irritating and annoying, somebody will give them what they want, because that won't happen when they have a job. But it is a profitable scenario for the restaurant. And of course, I mean, for the grocery store. And of course, let's face it, some of the time the kid isn't even there and the adult is still making that choice because they want that drink or that snack. The second step that you need to be able, the second thing that you need to have that's related to the first one about becoming an adult is you need to understand the difference between what children are responsible for and what adults are responsible for. And it really surprises me that this is a subject matter that most humans have completely reversed. It surprises me until I give it a lot of thought, which I have for this video. We tend to take responsibility for things that aren't our responsibility, that happened when they were a child. Now, listen, if you're watching this and you had a really happy childhood and you had great parents and they prepared you to launch and you didn't go through or were subjected to an adult who either mistreated you or taught you irresponsible lessons, or in the worst case scenario, abused you in some way, first, I just want you to understand how fortunate you are. If you're in that group, you're probably the minority. But if you are in that group, it probably surprises you that somebody would grow into an adulthood and then take responsibility for choices or behavior that they had when they were a child in those situations. And the reason why that happens is because they are adults now. They are looking back on those situations, and that was them, but now they have the perspective and the wisdom of an adult, somebody that has had life experiences, that has learned things, and they're looking through it with that lens, which they never should, because no child should ever be expected to have that lens. And so if they are not happy because they're taking responsibility for that, then that's wrong. They are not responsible for that. If that's you, if you're watching that and that's you, don't blame yourself for that. Don't have guilt for that. You shouldn't. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop now, because in order for you to be happy, you've got to love yourself, and that's the first ingredients in wanting to take these steps. So starting now, we're not taking responsibility for that. However, the reverse is true when you become an adult. And it seems kind of crazy, but the the rarest skill set that an adult has is the ability to accurately look in the mirror. Like, let's say you lose a job, or you lose a relationship, or you don't get a promotion, or you can't find a relationship. You tend to think one of multiple things. You tend to think that it's because some other people are responsible because they're dumb or incompetent, or because they're a bad person, or because they play favorites, or the most common one is that you've just been unlucky. But the truth is that everybody's lucky and unlucky, and putting yourself in those situations as an adult is almost always because of the choices you've made. And in order for this to work, you're going to have to realize that, and you're going to have to take responsibility for the things that you hold responsibility for. I mean, there's, when I was in high school, I got in a car accident, and it almost cost me my life. It was one of these situations where when I woke up, the EMTs are looking down at me and saying, "Hold on, you're going to make it," which, of course, I instantly realized meant there was a possibility I wasn't. And when I tell that story, one of the true things I always add is that it was only the second time that I'd ever not worn my seatbelt. And everybody's reaction is, some form of "that's so unlucky." But is it? I mean, is it unlucky? I made a choice. And when you make bad choices, a certain percentage of time, those are going to come back to haunt you. And yeah, it was unlucky that it happened that time, but I could have prevented that bad luck with different choices. We've all heard the stories of the athlete that, got in trouble because they got shot in a nightclub, and then they claim that they're unlucky because there were two parties exchanging gunfire, two groups of people, and they weren't part of either of these groups. So it was just bad luck that they got shot in a club at 3:30 a.m. the night before a game. Is it bad luck, though? We all have those friends who got really unlucky because they're faithful to their partner, but their partner left them for somebody else. And of course, somebody's going to be the bad guy and tell them, "Well, geez, when you started dating them, weren't they married?" And they're going to get mad at you and say, "Oh, their marriage was already basically over when we started seeing each other." And of course, that's what he's telling the next woman. There's constant examples of that. But the point is that, yeah, all of those things, bad luck was involved. But you set yourself up for that bad luck by the way you behave. I'll put the employment thing on me. I'm going to make an entire video about the choices I make because of my moral center that have hurt me professionally. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of success professionally, but it would have been a lot higher monetarily if I would have made different choices. And the difference is that I look in the mirror and I understand that I take responsibility for that, and I want you to do so as well. Now we're going to get to those 4 questions. Those 4 things that you have to take responsibility for, those 4 questions that you need to answer. Each one, when you answer, creates a chain link that's going to give you the strength to have a happy life. Chain number 1 is, how am I going to treat my body? Now, this is going to be a doozy because of a couple of things. Number 1, as part of the 4 chains, we are going to tell you what the questions are. We are going to give you advice about how to form your answers for it, and we may talk about how we've answered it, but for the most part, everybody is different, and you are going to have to answer these questions for yourself, and you will, in most cases, have different answers than me. Except really when it comes to how am I going to treat your body, because this is the question, one of the 4 questions that is the least variance in terms of the answer. And the reason why this is a tough one to talk about is I don't have that out to say, hey, well, this is what I did, but maybe that's not right for you. And also the fact that I looked up, I wrote it down here, 66.4% of the subscribers to this channel live in the United States. And, the United States is currently the least healthy industrialized nation in the history of mankind. And so I'm going to be giving advice that, as a general rule, most of my subscribers don't do a good job taking it. And I want to say right off the bat, I've made bad choices. I've made bad choices in terms of what goes in my body. And I'm, in certain ways, I'm paying prices for that. And I have paid big prices for that. So it's not, all of these questions are not things like, hey, I'm this great, perfect person that does all this great stuff, and so you should do stuff like me. In most of the cases, I learned these lessons through mistakes. So this is, I guess, the way I would want to think about it. So let's say you are going to live to be 80. That's the average life expectancy for somebody that makes it out of childbirth. If you are going to live to be 80, think about it like, if you knew that you were going to only have one automobile that entire time, how would you take care of it? Now, it sounds like an absurd analogy because, of course, people can have as many automobiles as they can afford, but it's not an absurd reality because this vessel, this body is the only one you get. If you wear it out, if you destroy it, that's it. You don't get to trade it in for a new one. And I do think that that's a good way to think about how you treat your body. It should be obvious to you, regardless of your current state of health, and I can give you a lot of examples about how that can change, is that the how healthy you are has a direct relation to how happy you are. And that is it's kind of an insidious principle because it's less true when you're in your 20s in your peak physical condition, and then starts to get more true, particularly in your 40s and 50s and beyond. And at that point, of course, if you're not healthy, you've already made decades of bad choices that have put you here. It doesn't mean that today, and this is why this question is first, this is the one that you can start making improvements on today. It doesn't mean that you can't start making improvements today, but that's the thing that makes this question kind of cruel, is that making bad choices regarding how to treat your body, when you start making those choices, the impact is minimal, and then it increases as you get older. But, the other thing is, this is about happiness, and, on a daily basis, you may think to yourself, well, I don't know what Jim's talking about, but I've had a terrible day, and if I have a few drinks, it's going to make me happier. If I have this cigarette, it's going to make me happier. If I do this drug, it's going to make me happier, et cetera, et cetera. And, the truth is, hey, maybe it will. But what I'm talking about is the long game. What is going to make you happiest in the long run? And you have to answer that for yourself. But even though on an individual day, having drinks or whatever, or eating that yummy dessert might make you happier, I guess I would ask this. Talk to somebody that has been overeating or smoking for 3 decades, for 30 years. And what percentage of those people do you think, if you asked them to be honest about it, would say, if I could go back 30 years ago when I started smoking or I started eating like this, I would shake that person and say, this is what's going to happen, don't do this. Particularly with eating, it's a lot easier to change your diet. But if you're a smoker and you've been smoking for 30 years, boy, that's an uphill battle. So let's deal with question number 2. What am I going to do for a living? There's a lot of variance in this answer because everybody's different. There are different things that are satisfying to different people. And we're gonna talk. There are some certain things that I think that what you do for a living, first of all, you should be focusing on a career and not a job. But second of all, that career should check certain boxes for you. And some careers will not check any boxes for people and all the boxes for other people, but we will go do a video about all of these questions. But in this one, we'll be talking about the things you should be focusing on in terms of choosing a career. But one thing I want to say right off the bat is that there have been a lot of talk about this and a lot of motivational speakers that have addressed this, but I want to talk about the great fallacy that I keep hearing. That people love to put on signs and put it in their kitchen or their bedroom or their office or whatever, and that is that the difference between that choice making you happy or not is that if you have chosen to work to live to work, that you're unhappy. But if you've chosen to work to live, that you're happy. And that is the main principle that I take objection with. And it's just a numerical issue. It's a fact. I worked a lot of hours. That doesn't mean you have to work a lot of hours, but let's just say for a normal work week, if you are working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you sleep 8 hours a day, that leaves another 8 because there's 24 hours in a day. So that means that half of your waking hours you're spending at work. So my contention would be that working to live is impossible. If you're spending half of your time 5 days a week at a job that makes you unhappy or a career that makes you unhappy, that means you're spending more time doing something that makes you unhappy than you are doing whatever it is that makes you happy in life. Your favorite thing might be surfing, I don't know, but you're not surfing 40 hours a week and working 40 hours a week, unless of course you're a surfer. So you can't just work to live. You need to have a job that contributes to your happiness as opposed to trying to be unhappy despite of your job. Number 3. Okay, here we go. Number 3 is, should I live my life with a partner and raise children? This one stands out because it's a very hot button issue. It is an issue that has the potential to garner a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of angry feelings, a lot of negative reactions on every end of the spectrum. And so what I would say is that I want to say almost nothing about this issue until we make the video where I say everything that I have to say about this issue. Because anything that I say could be countered with things that I just don't have time to address on this video. So I will just say this. It should be obvious to you. In your heart, you know that it's true, that if you do I'm not telling you what your answer should be, but if you do a fantastic job answering this question, it has the power to give you joy and happiness and fulfillment far beyond any of the other questions. And I would think anybody that knows me, and if you watch this channel, you know my wife would say that I'm probably exhibit A for that. And on the contrary, if you blow this one, if you do a terrible job dealing with this question, it has the capacity to bring you sorrow and despair, unlike any of the other 3 options. So it's not, I know that I'm going to lose subscribers and get dislikes when we make this video, but it's just so disingenuous of me to leave this off the list that I just can't do it. And I can't make the kind of difference that I want to make in your life without addressing this issue. So let's talk about the last one, number 4. Now, I would say that if I asked you to vote to try to predict, if I did a Facebook poll, what do you think are going to be the 4 questions that you need to answer to live a happy, fulfilled life? I think the first 3 would get a lot of votes. I think a lot of people would realize the first 3 would be, and I think very few people would probably think about the 4th one, but I hope to convince you that it's important. Number 4 is, what will my moral center be? Before you go crazy, I'm going to tell you, there will be a wild variance in this answer, because just like what should I do for a living, because everybody is different. And I would say that, when we make the video talking about just this, I am not going to tell you, hey, you should act like this, because if you act like this means you're a morally centered person and you're a good person. There's not going to be that. Because for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that, we're all raised in different cultures in terms of our family culture, in terms of the culture of the country that we live in. We, live in different societies. We travel in different worlds. We have different religions or no religion at all. And these are the things that form our moral center. The details of what you think being a good person are not what's important here. What's important here is that you've decided what is a good person, and that's the way you live. You live, your morality is a way that works for you, that contributes to your life, and it's not a flexible moral center. So in other words, you know what's right and wrong in your own mind and your own heart, but when that feeling of right and wrong becomes inconvenience for you, all of a sudden your moral center becomes less important. I mean, we talked about, my career. I have made choices that I know are not good choices for my career because a lot of my moral center has to do with those choices and what's important to me. And, those things that are important to me, it might be a different thing that's important to you. But the reason why I feel good about who I am as a person is because when those at work in particular, or in other situations where it becomes inconvenient for me, I'm not flexible on those situations. I will stick by them. I would say this, like, if you are in great shape, you've chosen a career that's really great for you, you got a great wife and you've got a great kids, or husband or whatever, and but you feel in your heart that you're a bad person, I think it's hard to pull off being happy. Why don't I say this to you? Do this. Get a piece of paper and a pen and make a list of all the males in your life that you feel are assholes, and all the females in your life that you feel are bitches. Once that list is completed, go down the list and ask yourself, how many of those people are you convinced are happy people, that they lead happy, fulfilled lives? And I think that will tell you how important this issue is. It doesn't mean that if you're a good person and you don't do a good job answering the other 3 questions that you're automatically happy. It just means that assholes and bitches are miserable. So like I say, thank you for the people. I know this is the video that will get the least amount of people to watch till the very end, but I really, really, really appreciate everybody that has. And I would say to you that, please look forward to the individual content that we make on these issues, and let's make this a dialogue. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to be given a chance to explain further what I have to say. And thank you very much for watching the 4 Chains.